What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Marshall Time. Bro, we in double digits, episode 10.
Yes, sir. We made it to
Got 10 of
10.
them things in the books. How you feeling?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Good, good. Thank you guys for watching and supporting us through 10 episodes. A little milestone. More to go though. More to go. We gotta talk about these playoffs. We'll pretty much do an overview of each series, a quick overview, but obviously there are a couple particular series that we want to talk about the most, obviously. But Eastern Conference, honestly, I think everything is going how we expected it to go. As far as which series will be the most competitive, I think Cleveland, New York is playing out to be that. Philly, Brooklyn, the Nets, the Hawks against the Celtics. Hawks and Nets, you're on broom alert. You're on broom alert. You're down 0-2, so I don't think we expected any resistance from those two series. And then you have Milwaukee, Miami, obviously with Giannis, his back issue. We don't know the severity of it or the long-term diagnosis of it, but that is something to focus on. Tyler Hero out with a broken hand, so that's something that's huge. Quick question about Milwaukee, Miami. If Giannis's back is compromised at any, let's say he tries to play and just there's a setback or if there's any issue with his back that causes him to miss any time or he's just not the same, how much more of a chance do you give Miami?
They have a decent chance. Well, if he can't play, I'll give them a decent chance. If he can play still and he's able to, still be somewhat effective, I don't think their odds move that much, in my opinion. Especially with Tyler Hero being hurt now. So
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be another loss for them, just like it's a loss for the Bucks. Of course, Giannis the better player, but the Heat they're already limited on perimeter scores, shooting. So with him being out, that's going to hurt them a lot.
Yeah, I mean, if Giannis plays, I think that's enough. But if Giannis has to miss time, I think the Bucks roster is so constructed to revolve around Giannis, just like Jokic in Denver. Like the roster construction is it's built to revolve around those guys, right? And that's how these guys are able to get good looks. The Grayson Allens, right? The Joe Ingles, Bobby Porters. I mean, these are good players, but having Giannis out there creates even more opportunities for them. And we talked about it before. Once one guy is out, other guys have to step up into a role that they may not be. It just impacts. It's a trickle down effect, right? Where other roles have to change, and some guys may not be ready for that or able to do that, right? And so, I would give Miami a better chance for sure, but that's something to keep an eye on. I want to talk about Atlanta and Boston. I mean, Boston's up 2-0, no surprise, right? But I think the Hawks, they got to have a real conversation. They got to have a real conversation. Um, Trae Young, we know he's a talented scorer, one of the bright stars in this league. But at what point, as a franchise, do you separate great talent versus we can really depend on this guy? We can count on him. This can be the guy to lead us into that upper echelon. And so I don't know what the Hawks are doing or building, but they're in no man's land. They're in the worst spot you can ever be in the NBA, right? You're playing for a playing spot. You're in the 7th, 8th territory. Like that seems to be your ceiling at this current era of Hawks basketball. So at this point, you're going to be wasting away 2, 3, 4 years because I don't see the upside in this roster long term. DeJounte Murray's talented. John Collins is a very good player. DeAndre Hunter is good, but these aren't guys that can compete with the likes of what Boston has, what Milwaukee has, and Milwaukee isn't going anywhere. The Celtics aren't going anywhere. So if you're a Hawks, front office situation, like I don't think it's crazy to think about. Is it time to figure out the next steps? Like, how do we really get? Are we going to be in this no man's land territory where you're a 7th and 8th seed and getting bounced early by the top 2 seeds, versus let's start the process of figuring this thing out, rebuilding, see if we can get for Trae Young, and going from there. I think it's time after this postseason because just watching them, they're just so outclassed by Boston. And Trae Young has struggled. He has his flaws for sure, and so I don't see the impact that Trae Young has as a primary option right now when it comes to competing for a championship level. I can't put him in the upper echelon category. I just haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation with Atlanta because on one hand, Trey, he's a star, he's a proven star. We seen the playoff run he had a couple years ago. We know that he can shoot. We know that he's a great playmaker. Um, but the reality is he does have his flaws. He's turnover prone. He's small. It's hard for him to play defense. Um, but at the same time, I think more of the blame needs to go on the Hawks. They haven't built a good team around him, to me, honestly. They went and got DeJounte Murray, and I like DeJounte Murray. He's a good young player, but it's all about fit in the NBA. And DeJounte being off the ball, he doesn't fit with Trae Young. He's not a good shooter. He's not a great shooter. He's not known for his shooting. So that's the mess up number one right there. They were better off getting a 3-and-D guy, a guy like an OG Anunoby or Mikal Bridges, somebody like that that can play defense, but also can reap the benefits of Trae's playmaking on the offensive end. Okay, I think that's step number one. Also, you mentioned the other players like DeAndre Hunter, John Collins. They're solid players, but they haven't lived up to what they should have been or could have been. John Collins, he's been like the same player since he got to the league. He's athletic, he rebounds, he can play solid defense, but he doesn't move the needle. DeAndre Hunter, he's had injury issues, but he hasn't moved the needle. Clint Capella, we already know he's just a lob threat and he plays defense. They need like just a better roster construction around them. It's just like Luka with the Mavericks. Like they had a good roster. They kind of scrapped it to go get Kyrie's star power, but what did they lack? They lack defense. It's all about fit in the NBA. And I just don't think the Hawks have done a good job. Like I said, Trey's a star. Can he be the number one on the championship team? I don't know. I mean,
I don't think
history.
so.
Yeah, I mean, history would tell you no because of how small he is and of his flaws. But at the same time, like I said, they have to do a better job of building around him because he is a superstar in the NBA. And I mean, it's not too many of them. And we've seen him have that clutch gene. It's a lot of guys that, we say could be number one, but when the time comes to show, they don't show up. I've seen Trey show up in clutch moments, so I got to give him that credit. So at the same time, I don't know. It's a tricky situation, but before anything, I think more blame needs to go on the Hawks than it does Trey.
Yeah, I mean it's a mix. Both parties has a part. I mean, when you're the top guy, you got to have some responsibility, right? Like you got to make your guys better. Like I'm an AI fan. I saw what he did with some rosters that weren't nearly as good as what Trey has to play with, right? And so I'm kind of when I look at some of these guys, I've seen certain guys do more with less. You know what I'm saying? So that's when you talk about elite, my criteria is high. Like I saw what AI did, right? Like, and he's a small guard, doesn't play defense. He's a great player. Don't get me wrong. Like when he's on fire, he's amazing to watch, but he's not Steph, right? Like I saw what Steph did in the finals last year at age 33, 34, mid 30s. He's still playing at a high level, even getting better. And so I don't see that from Trey. I don't see him being in that. I don't think he's in that Steph Curry category. I know that's like the easy comparison, right? I just don't see it. I don't see the overall impact.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
And that was the easy comparison. And I never liked that comparison, Trey to Steph. I get he shoots from deep and he's small, but he's not Steph. But you also got to remember, look what the Warriors did with Steph. They built a good team around him. They provided him with another crazy shooter in Clay. They gave him Draymond, who fits his role perfectly. Defense, he can play make. I'm not even the biggest Draymond fan, but the reality is the Warriors built the perfect system for Steph. I'm not saying Steph isn't a great player without the system, but for him to win those championships and all the accolades, that system played a part in it. And that's what it comes down to. It's all about situation in NBA. That's something I've learned to realize over the years. And I just don't know that the Hawks have really put Trey in that best position. That's just how I see it.
Yeah, I mean, if I was a GM, I wouldn't waste. If it's 4 years and we still in the 7-8 playing territory, it's time for a new. Every 3-4 years, we got to do let's look at everything. And if we're still in playing territory after 3-4 years, we got to do something new because what you're going to have yourself, it's like a Portland situation, a Wizards situation with Brad Beal, with Dame. I can't stand when teams do that. And so when I see Atlanta, I think they're on that track because honestly, to get better, you have to give up something, right? And so giving up Trey doesn't mean it's Trey's fault. Giving up Trey means like we got to get better. And we're not getting better with you being here, right? Like we're doing the same thing over and over. How many plans are we going to be in, right? How many 7, 8 seeds are we like? We're not beating Milwaukee. We're not beating Philly. I mean, they beat Philly that one year, but that's a whole other conversation. We're not beating Boston. Boston is still very much young, right? And so I just think they got to figure out how can they improve this roster. And Trae Young is their biggest piece, right? And so at least this offseason, start the conversation, see what you can get. Because at a certain point, what do we like? Either you're getting better or you're staying stagnant. Like there's no, you know what I'm saying? So I think a lot of teams hold on too long, and we're seeing that with Portland with Dame. Um, Moving to the Western Conference, which is I think as we expected to be a little more. I think these games have been a little more exciting. I've cared more about the Western Conference outside of the Sixers, obviously, and the teams that we focus on. But for the West, I just think I don't know. You look at the Suns and the Clippers. You're seeing KD and Kawhi go at it and defend each other. That's been fun. And then the Kings back in the playoffs. The energy with that, and the Draymond situation with the Warriors. We talked about this before these games started. They thought the Kings were a cakewalk, and they are not. I'm telling you, like I've watched this team throughout the year on League Pass. Every time I watched them, De'Aaron Fox fourth quarter was making plays. Malik Monk can go off at any moment. Like this is a team that's confident. Mike Brown has done an amazing job with these guys, and coaching has a huge part to do with what they've done this year. And so it doesn't shock me that the Kings are up 2-0. And it wouldn't shock me if they won this series. We give the Warriors the edge because they're the Warriors, they're the champs. You got to respect Steph and Clay and Dre. But I talked about it before. They haven't had a sustained effort all throughout the season. There's always seemed to be something missing, but you give them the benefit of the doubt. But eventually, it kind of wears off. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't just expect the same team, the same guys to step up over and over. Like everything comes to an end eventually. Andrew Wiggins is playing, yes, but he hasn't been playing in a while. So that like you got to take that into account. So I think logic, if this wasn't if you take away the Warriors' history and the names and their resume this year, I think people would side with the Kings more. But because the history, you got to give the Warriors that respect. I understand that. But this is a new season. It's a new slate. And the Kings aren't afraid of these Warriors. Like De'Aaron Fox is here. I said it all year. He's the best fourth quarter player I've seen. He was just named he got the clutch award, right? So I'm excited to see what the Kings are doing right now. And I think, look, whoever they play, they're going to be dangerous. I don't think they're a cakewalk, regardless of who they play.
Yeah, I agree 100%. One thing I want to give credit to is just Mike Brown and his ability to have their offense translate to the playoffs. All in the regular season, we know they were a high-paced team. They like to play fast. They get out and run, shoot a lot of threes. And a lot of people always say, when the playoffs come, the game slows down. Kings have found a way to keep their game fast in the playoffs. They're not being, stopped in the half court, and they're getting their shots up, they're getting to their spots. And I think that's just a major credit to coaching, and it's a major credit to the players that are buying in. And it's just, like I said, me and you both said it. I felt like teams were trying to fall to play the Kings instead of the Suns or whoever, but I don't think that was a smart idea, like I said, because at the end of the day, this is a team that's hungry. You saw how crazy their fans were. They haven't made it to the playoffs since 2006. So those first two games, it was like a madhouse in there. And I don't know. The series isn't over, of course, because the Warriors, they have two at home, and we know it's different with that Warriors crowd. Just how the Kings crowd was like, the Warriors crowd is going to be turned too. So we got to see how they handle that on the road. But just those first two games, just seeing how they were able to kind of play the game that the Warriors like to play and beat them at it was awesome. And when you think about it, they have the pieces to do it. They have De'Aaron Fox. They have Malik Monk. They have Sabonis, who is just as good, if not a better passer than Draymond. He's bigger than Draymond. And he's a better scorer than Draymond and a better rebounder than Draymond. So it's like you're taking their system and you're kind of, upping it on some parts. Now, of course, De'Aaron Fox isn't Steph, but he's faster than Steph, which means he can push the ball quicker than Steph. And he's hitting shots in this series. People don't know him to be a shooter, but his shooting has improved a lot. And he's hitting shots, especially in the fourth quarter. And Malik Monk is going crazy too. And they have the others, Trey Lyles hitting shots, Keegan Murray hitting shots, Harrison Barnes hitting shots, dunking on Clay. It's a lot going on. So I don't know. We'll see how that series ends up. My original pick was the Warriors in 6. I'm sticking with it just because I think that they'll have enough, to pull it out in the end. But if they end up losing, it won't surprise me.
Kevin Huerter is another one of those guys. Like, I think I mean, I think this was a great matchup for the Kings, honestly, with how the Warriors play anyway. How they can, how they can be loose with the ball, igniting some quick offense, right? So I think Mike Brown having that knowledge of the Warriors, being an assistant with them, he knows those guys. He knows what they're thinking. He knows the system. Like he knows, right? And so I think this was an exciting first round matchup, and honestly, a great matchup for the Kings. The only thing that we talked about with the Kings was their lack of playoff experience. They haven't been here before, right? Like that was the big thing, and the defense too, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I think I picked the Warriors in 6 as well. It wouldn't shock me if the Warriors won the next 2. This thing could go 7. Honestly, I want to see 7. That's just how it's just been back and forth. It's just been some fast action. Seeing Steph Curry still play at a high level. It's been fun. It's been fun. And obviously Draymond Green suspended for stumping on Sabonis. Um, I think it was right to eject him. You can't be stumping on guys, but I don't think if Draymond should be playing game 3. Let's just get that out the way. For me, I think he should be playing. If Sabonis doesn't grab his leg, we're not talking about this, right? And so I think it's okay to say both players were wrong. Sabonis was wrong for grabbing the leg, and Draymond was wrong for stumping on Sabonis. Like, it's okay. Both can be wrong. Handle it within that game how you want to handle it. But a suspension, to me, I think this has everything to do with who Draymond is and his history. If this was like a first offense, it's a, ejection, maybe a fine, maybe, but I don't think they suspend him. Like, yeah, if Steph Curry did this, right, or if somebody who doesn't have a history of this, there's no suspension. There isn't. So that's my stance on it. I mean, I don't. To me, it's cut and dry. That's how I feel about it. So,
Yeah, I agree with you on that. It's definitely because of his reputation and his history. Reputation precedes you. That's the
yeah.
saying, and it's the truth. Also, I kind of think the way he acted after he
Mm-hmm.
stumped on him, like yelling in the crowd, like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I did that, that probably put some, thought into it too, and whoever was behind the suspension. But that's who Draymond is. Like we said, it's his
Mm-hmm.
history. So yeah, it's tough. But I mean, he's had a history. You would think he would have learned by now,
Yeah.
but that's just who he's going to be. So it is what it is.
Is there anything in the playoffs, any of these series, a team or a player who stood out to you or surprised you? What's just watching these games that you've been able to see? Has anything stood out to you in particular?
Devin Booker's defense and Russ's defense, actually. The
Yeah.
defense that both of them are playing in the round one has been great in the first
Mm-hmm.
2 games. Um, Everybody, Russ gets a lot of, flack for his defense. People say, he's too he's not disciplined enough on defense. And then people
Mm-hmm.
get flack for Devin Booker for not giving enough energy on defense. Well, through these first 2 games, we've seen Devin Booker, we've seen him block people.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen Russ make great defensive plays and make great hustle plays. We even seen Russ have a game, and then block on Devin Booker. So
Mm-hmm.
just seeing 2 players that, aren't really known for their defense actually out there giving it all, it just shows you the type of intensity that the playoffs bring out of players. So
Yeah,
that's
a
just
couple things. I mean, just the Clippers. We talked about it. Like they're one, if not the deepest team in the league, right? One of the deepest. And I mean, just seeing PG on the sideline. Like, imagine if they had PG on the floor, on top of Kawhi. Russ, Terrence Mann, Norman Powell, like Batum, the 2 big guys they have. Like, this is. I mean, Eric Gordon. Like this is a really good team, right? And so, but to me, watching the Clippers Suns, man, you know my favorite 2 players in the league for some time have been Steph Curry and Kawhi Leonard. And just seeing Kawhi play at this level again in the playoffs, just reminding people, because as Sixers fans, we know, I don't think that 2019 version of Kawhi Leonard is one of the best performances from a player I've seen in recent memory, honestly. Like I Steph last year in the finals, but Kawhi in 2019 was pretty much a robot. Every shot he put up, I expected it to go in. Obviously, he led the Raptors to a championship, but to see Kawhi out there healthy, competing, guarding KD, just to see how he's able to just swipe KD like it's just a casual thing, and then put up 30, just reminds you of his two-way greatness. I think people forget, like we know he said load management, he sat out a lot of games. But as Ty Lue said, this is what we've been saving up for this moment, and it's showing, right? And so I'm glad that Kawhi is reminding people like, yo, you're talking about top five, you're talking about these guys, but I'm two-time MVP, finals. Like, some of your favorites ain't got that. Like, name them. It's Steph, it's KD, it's Bron, it's Giannis, it's me. Like, and where's the lie? Like, you can't. Kawhi has every right to say that because who are you gonna put up with him? Who else are you gonna outside the names I mentioned? Who else are you gonna put up with him? Tatum, Luca. What names are you gonna put up next to Kawhi? Honestly, who we putting next to him? Jokic. We love Embiid, but he hasn't reached that mountaintop yet. So I just love Kawhi reminding people like, hey, I may not be in your top five conversation, but when I want to, I'm gonna turn it on. Like, it's like Nas or Jay in the rap game. Like, look, I may not be talked about every day, but when I want to, yeah, I'm better. I'm better than any of you. So Kawhi is as good as anybody in the playoffs right now to me.
I think he's been the best player in the playoffs just through the first two games. I mean, I don't see how you argue otherwise. He's doing it on defense. He's barely missing. When he does miss, it's like great defense, a couple guys hanging on him, but he's just getting tough buckets all over the place, man. So um Kawhi's my boy. You know that. So at the
Yeah.
end of the day, this isn't a surprise to me. I'm just happy to see it. I said Suns in seven. I'm hoping that the Clippers could win it because I would love to see Kawhi play more, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. But hey, they still won at Phoenix. That's their job. They did their
Yep.
job. Now they have two at home and they have a chance to take a 3-1 lead, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I picked the Suns, but man, I don't want to. The way Kawhi's playing right now, I want to like go all the way. You know what I mean? Like represent
Yeah.
for the West. I want to, and I want to see PG out there too. Like PG's one of the most skilled. I know he has his flaws, and but as far as skills, man, not too many. Not too many you can put ahead of him. Just the overall package, right? So that's what's standing out to me. And also, give a shout out to Derek White. I cover the Celtics. So I mean, Derek White's been hooping these last two games. They were even chanting out MVP in Boston last night. Derek White had, looking at the box score, hold on. Yeah, Derek White had 26 last night. And then in game one, did he have 24? Yeah, he had 24 in game one. So Derek White, as far as just other guys stepping up, these first two games, I know he doesn't get a lot of the recognition because he's behind Tatum and Jaylen Brown. But Derek White is, if the Celtics win the championship and if they make that run, two names to remember: Malcolm Brogdon. No, three names: Malcolm Brogdon, Derek White, and Rob Williams. Like those are three guys that they can trump most benches. Rob Williams comes off the bench and Brogdon comes off the bench. Not many teams can say they have those two type of talents coming off the bench. And so that's what gives me confidence when I talk about the Celtics, because they have Tatum, Brown, Smart, Brogdon, and Derek White. Those five guys that can get the ball and just go and create and score and create for others. Like that's not fair. To have that option is it's unique. And so I think that's going to pose trouble for whoever plays them throughout these playoffs. The Hawks don't have an answer for them. So yeah, shout out to Derek White. He's shown improving, more comfortable with Boston now, actually having a full off season with them, because he was traded from San Antonio to Boston midway through last year, but he looks really comfortable right now. So Derek White is doing his thing. I'm trying to think what else. Nothing else really stood out. I mean, the Sixers, I can't really gauge too much on what they're doing right now because the Nets to me are a play-in team right now. I mean, they won just enough with Kyrie and KD so that they were in a position to where they could, hold water to stay in that sixth spot. But if we're being honest, if this was the roster from game one, are they the sixth seed? No, I don't think they are. But Philly's doing what they have to do, and I think they're going to sweep them. I just don't. Shout out to Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, but they're just outclassed. They don't have an all-star. Like, I think Mikal Bridges is an all-star caliber talent. He has the potential, but they don't have a proven all-star in that roster. I think this might be the least talented roster in the playoffs. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, I agree. Like I agree with you on the fact that the Nets, this isn't like a big, challenge for us, but there is something to gauge here. The
Mm,
first thing is the way we came back in that game
mm,
too. That's different than Sixers teams of the past.
mm,
Usually, when we're down, Sixers teams in the past, and that's been a thing all year for the Sixers. This year, we've been able to come back when we're down. Sixers teams of the past, if we were down,
mm,
it was going to stay down. Body language from the team was down. It's just the chemistry was off. But this year, I've seen us come back time and time again, and that game too just proved it. And another thing is also a credit to Embiid's playmaking, how much it's improved, especially out of the double team. The Nets have been trapping and double teaming him from all different spots on the court all year long. Well, I mean, all series long. And
mm,
what he's been able to do is he's been able to pick them apart. That's something that Embiid wasn't able to do a couple years ago.
mm.
So those are just two measuring sticks that I've seen just from this team personally. And I think that it's something that we can carry over into the next round, which we're going to have to. And we have to sweep the Nets because, like I said, I've been telling people Boston is going to sweep the Hawks. So we got
Yeah,
to sweep
right.
the Nets. We got to make that same statement that they're going to make. We can't play around and win in five like I've seen us do to less teams in the past because
Yeah.
that just shows me that we're on the same type time. So we have to switch it up. So yeah, that's two things that I've been paying attention to in that series.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest thing from this series, just come out healthy. I don't have any issues about Harden or Embiid. Like everything they're doing, it's all right, cool. Like we did what we had to do because I know what's coming. Like I know what's waiting. This Celtics team isn't a joke, so they got to be ready. And for me, it's not so much of a physical talent thing; it's a mental thing with the Sixers. Like against a team like the Nets, you can get away with some things, right? You can get away with complaining for fouls, looking for, fishing for fouls, right? And maybe not getting back on defense as you should. Against a team like Boston, the room for error is slim because you can't say we can out talent you guys. Yes, we have the best player in Embiid, but pound for pound, we can't just out talent you like we're out talenting the Nets, right? And so it's a mental thing for me with the Sixers when it comes to the Celtics. And the Celtics just seems to have I don't know, the last few years just been like a block. Like it's been annoying as a Sixers fan. So I love what they're doing to Brooklyn. Bring out the brooms. I want to see a sweep, but please be ready for Boston mentally. Like they cannot afford to waste a play. James Harden cannot afford to complain and look for fouls and not get back on defense. Same with Joel Embiid. He's having a great season, but you got to be locked in against this team. You have to be. Tobias Harris, he's been playing well. I don't want to hear any excuses against Boston. I don't. It's one thing to do against the Nets, but do it against these guys, Tatum, Brown, Brogdon, Derek White, Marcus, like do it against those guys. And then we talking. And then there's Doc Rivers. I'm still not completely sold on him just yet, but we'll see. So yeah, I mean, Boston, Philly, second round. That might be, man. I think the winner. I will say here's my prediction. The winner of that series wins the championship. That's what I say.
I agree. We said the winner was coming out of the East. I do think I said the Bucks were my pick to go to the finals before the playoffs started. But with Giannis's injury, and I don't know how long it's going to take Chris Middleton to get up. Whoever wins that series, they could go to the finals and win it. The winner's coming out of the East, though.
Yeah, the winner's coming out of the East. I
In my
mean,
opinion, that's
yeah,
my
I think pound for pound, the top three teams are just better.
yeah.
These other teams right there. I mean, they don't. Giannis, Embiid. Then you have Boston's duo and what they have, their depth. I don't think any of those teams in the West have an answer for what they're bringing. So Philly, Boston, second round. Whoever wins that series, I don't have a prediction yet. I don't want to be biased, right? But I want to wait and see how they close out these next two games. I want to see how they close it out, see how the health is, because that with Embiid, you just never know. With Harden, you never know. I want to see how they close out the series. Do they keep their foot in the gas and close out in Brooklyn? I want to see that because I think Sixers teams in the past would let it go to 5 games, right? When it should be over in 4. And so I want to see that. But I do say Philly, Boston winner. They're winning the East and they're winning the championship. So that's what I think. So yeah, that's what we got for episode 10. More games tonight, every day at this point, first round. You know how that goes, games every day. So yeah, just keep watching. And we'll be back here for episode 11 in due time. So thank you guys for watching, and definitely subscribe and follow on all the socials.